Good morning, my beautiful soul followers. Hope everybody's morning is starting out just as amazingly as mine. So I was out on a walk and I was just thinking about some conversations I've had recently, and actually I was looking at an old post that I had put up, and somebody had gone back and had put a comment on it. And I read the comment, and the part of the post was talking about how the feminine will test the masculine energies and how they'll kind of wait and see what happens, but not in a manipulative kind of testing manner. And then in the commentary, it also talked about, if you have arguments or triggers in a relationship, how that's toxic and that isn't healthy. And it really spurred some thought in my own head, and then actually some conversations with people I care about, and even talking with some clients. And it was this idea of how dare our partner trigger us. If our partner triggers us, then that means that they're toxic, or that means that they're not right for us, that, it's not a healthy relationship. And I actually completely disagree. And it was this idea also that tests in a relationship mean that someone's being narcissistic or toxic. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be moving my phone because we're old school in it without a tripod, because I didn't bring a tripod on my nature walk today. But it's this idea that testing in a relationship is a negative thing. And I think there are ways we can test in relationship that it is negative, that it's very negative. If we are manipulative and trying to kind of see, basically see our partner's reaction, that it's a negative thing. But in truth, all relationships have tests. All relationships have tests. And the world, our energy, brings us tests. And so we do see kind of what our partner's reaction. So in my last long-term relationship, I remember I had multiple people actually die. I've actually had quite a few friends pass over the last few years. And I remember one day just being really upset, and because I had just had somebody very close to me pass, and I remember crying. And that was a test for my partner to step up and just hold me and be there for me. It wasn't a manipulative, purposeful test. It was him stepping up and being there for me when I needed him. And so yes, the world, our lives will bring us tests in relationships. To think our relationship will never be tested that's an unhealthy thought process, and that if there's any test in relationships, it means that it's negative. It's not true. And then this triggering piece, actually, I completely disagree with it. Triggers are incredibly healthy. If your relationship at some level is not triggering you, then you're probably not going deep enough. And that goes for all our relationships. Now, if it's trigger, I'm not saying that relationship isn't right, but potentially you or your partner need to look at kind of what's going on. What's going on? Why are you being so triggered? Why is that other person so triggered? Are you actually not stopping and hearing the other person? Because a lot of times we get triggered and we shut it down before we get an opportunity to really hear the other person, to really look at our own energy and really look at, okay, what parts of me are being really truly triggered right now in this conversation, in this relationship? What is coming up? Am I willing to truly see the trigger, or am I just negating it? Am I negating it, and therefore it will continue? Because when we don't deal with our triggers, when we don't actually confront these things, they last, they continue on, and nothing actually gets done, both energetically and then in the relationship. But triggers are important. In truth, the people that we are closest to us will always trigger us the most, because they're there for a reason. They're there for our sole purpose. So the people in your lives are there for a reason. They really are. They are always there for a reason. Now, sometimes that reason's for a short period of time. Sometimes it's for a lifetime. But they're there for a reason, and they're there to bring out different pieces of us. Yes, they should be triggering the positive pieces at different points in the relationship, but there also should be you seeing your shadow as well. So I used to do this modality, and I still practice it. I don't call it psychodrama, but I still practice it with my clients. I do workshops, but it's called psychodrama. And back when I was a budding therapist, I did years of training in this modality because I love it. I love it. You really get to see people at a deeper level than just talking, because talking sometimes you can block and you don't really get to see someone's depth. And in this modality, you really get to see people's darkness and their light too. It's so amazing. But on the wall of my training room, there is this phrase: once you've seen someone's psychodrama, you can't help but love them. And that's the case, because as soon as you see someone's garbage, someone's shit, and then also that beautiful piece of them, you can't help but love them. And the fact is, if we're in relationship with somebody, we're going to see all aspects of that. And it's to see if we are willing to look it in the face, hold it, and really hear it, or if we're going to run from it. Are we going to run from it? And I see couples all the time that truly don't want to see these aspects of self, and that is actually what's causing the triggers, what's causing the trauma, what's causing the arguments. It's because one party isn't wanting to hear another's triggers, or isn't willing to hear how that other person is triggering them. But the fact is, triggers are important for our relationships. And it's, oh, this person is triggering me, so therefore it's not a healthy relationship. But I've seen so many couples that are like, we don't fight at all. We never argue. And when I hear that, it's actually a signal to me that I go, okay, what is not being spoken about? What is not being talked about? Now, I'm not saying rip-roaring, arguments. That's not necessarily the healthiest thing. What I'm talking about is those places where both people are not seeing eye to eye and they don't agree, and they're like, no, like, this is how you're showing up and this is how you're showing up, and having those hard conversations. That's a trigger. And that's incredibly healthy when we can sit with people in their light, in their dark. We can notice how somebody else is stirring our shit, because it always comes back to us, but really see that triggering and move through it and try to heal it. Because when we don't want to see that triggering, when we don't want to acknowledge it, when we don't want to talk about it, what ends up happening is it just keeps happening over and over again. So you might change relationships, but those triggers will still be there. That trauma will still be there. And so it is important to use those in our lives for our own healing and to see those deeper pieces of self. And it doesn't mean it's toxic. Now, there are toxic, unhealthy behaviors. Like if somebody is hitting you, that's not a healthy behavior. That's toxic behavior. If somebody is completely tearing you down, that's not healthy. That's not triggers. That is abusive. And so we're not talking about that. We're talking about these little triggers and that oftentimes relationships want to avoid because it causes a stir. But that stir is sometimes necessary, and it's how we oftentimes get deeper into a relationship. It's to deal with those things. And if we don't deal with them, like I've said, we're going to continue on with them. But testing and triggers are not negatives in relationship. I actually love to look at them as something that inevitably ends up being positive, because it's a growth aspect for both parties. It's one person getting to really see and hear the other soul, and the other person getting to look at themselves and go, okay, yeah, this is why I'm being triggered. This is what's going on. This is This is how your action is causing a reaction in me. Guess what? We're all human. No one is perfect. And we are given people and relationships in our lives for this growth, for this connection. And guess what? Not all triggers are negative. Sometimes we trigger people in positive. We trigger these beautiful pieces of people, or people trigger beautiful pieces of us. And guess what? The healthiest relationships trigger both our darkness and our light. Those are the keepers. Those are the amazing, amazing relationships. And so, triggers aren't negative. They're actually required in relationship. It's healthy. It's healthy to feel a little triggered. It's healthy to look at yourself. And then testing happens in every relationship. And to think that you're going to get into a healthy, loving, deep, energetically connected, and growing kind of relationship and not be tested, you really need to look at your expectations of relationship. Because I want my relationships to test me. I want them to push me forward and grow. It's not oftentimes we're not manipulatively testing. Life tests relationships. Life tests relationships. So, on that note, I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts, comments on this topic, because I know it is a hot topic right now. Everybody, there's so many triggers. I don't know anybody who isn't feeling a little triggered with our comings and goings of our world, and also to just brush them under the rug and go, oh, I'm just all peace, love, and light. You can be peace, love, and light, and you can still feel triggered. You can still feel triggered. And so I would love to hear your commentary. And then if you're wanting to step up into that orgasmic life, that includes all your emotions, the negatives. I have worked with people for over 10 years now, helping them to really grow and expand their lives. And I would love to make you one of those people. So reach out to me at addisonbell.net/contact, and we can do a pleasure planning consult and get you on your way. Even if we don't end up working together, you will get something from the consult to take with you. Other than that, go have an amazing fucking day. It's so beautiful out, at least here where I am. So go enjoy your day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I love you. Bye.